All right, my next guest kicked up a hornet's nest with his proposition not long ago. Remember that real poverty level in the United States being 140,000? Well, now he's back, and his latest missive is on the pursuit of happiness. Now, I've also asked one of the most astute observers of American behavior also to join our conversation. So let's bring in Simplify Asset Management, their chief strategist, Mike Green, along with Cultural Plus Group founder and CEO, Lili Gill. All right, Mike, you've done it again, my man. So you talk about the pursuit of happiness, and again, Thomas Jefferson and looking back at Locke's work and sort of copying it verbatim, except for where Locke talked about property, it was substitute. The pursuit of happiness was injected there, and that's an area where some people get a little frustrated and some people don't. But you say that you're saying that the United States in the last 40 years has drifted into a nightmare. We built an economy that optimizes property, not pursuit. We've let the property of the baby boomers cannibalize the pursuit for millennials and Gen Z. So essentially, you're blaming the boomers like young people.
It's not that I'm blaming the boomers either individually or even in aggregate. It's just they were the party in charge. They were the generation in charge during this transition. There's components of this that I think are just cyclical. Look, we've gotten to the point in the 1960s and 1970s in which government regulation and government taxation had become abusive, and we were in a scenario in which we needed to reform.
We were always told, though, that tax policy was designed to help the lower income folks.
Yeah.
It was progressive. You paid more as it went higher. So, but it actually somehow it put a moat around these folks?
Yeah, unfortunately, look, when you have access to the halls of power, you are tempted to change policy slightly in your favor because, among other things, you believe that you deserve it. And that, by and large, is what has happened over the last 40 to 50 years. While there's a lot of headlines talking about the top 1% pay 50% of the income taxes, and that's really important, right? There's a word that's there, income taxes. The majority of taxes that most people see on their paycheck are actually FICA taxes,
right?
And those are not counted in that number. When we actually look at the share of taxes in aggregate that are being paid by the wealthiest versus those who are in the middle, forget the poor, because they really don't pay net taxes. But if you look at that household in the middle, that 20th percentile to 80th percentile, their tax burden has risen dramatically while it has fallen for the top 5 to 1%.
And Lili, I mean, you know the pulse of Americans. That's all you do. You know it better than anyone else. And we're starting to see it play out in the political arena as well.
That's right. You know, when I was reading Mike's work, to me it was just getting back to incentivizing productivity over asset ownership. And I know we got to do better at asset ownership, and we look at Trump's baby investment account, and that's kind of giving Americans a stake at the American ownership of assets. However, I love that you're just basically rebalancing. Like, a lot of people don't see the line items of that taxation, and a lot of the benefit from those of us that have the benefit of owning assets is that incentives on tax and arbitrage and financial engineering helps us stay healthy in how we generate returns. And this is not redistribution. I think you're just rebalancing back to productivity. Did I get that right?
I think that's right. I mean, what you want to do is you want to create a clear incentive for people to participate and work and do the best that they possibly can. And unfortunately, our welfare and benefit system has been set up to create that valley of death that I highlighted in that first piece, that removes benefits prematurely relative to what households actually need and creates a disincentive for trying to escape from true poverty.
Right.
You have this rule of 65 as a solution. And it's essentially you're shifting the taxes off of workers and onto idle capital. Explain that.
Well, the idea is very straightforward. The rule of 65, which ironically sounds like 65-year-olds ruling us, which is by and large what we've experienced for the past 30 or 40 years. What we need to do is reorient policy towards that 65th percentile household. And the reason I pick that is because it's not the median. I actually want to reward people and encourage people to do better than average, to do better than the median, to effectively push policy in a direction that takes that family.
But does that come at the expense, though? Because there's a table in your work that suggests that it comes at the expense of the top, I don't know, the top half of the earners, certainly the top 1%. Is this just another form of redistribution?
Well, ironically, we've seen that redistribution in the opposite direction. We've taken the fruits of that productivity and we've shifted it to the capital owners. And part of the reason that table is there is to emphasize that if we follow the prescriptions that I've put in the rule of 65, you're actually not reducing it for anyone except for the top 1%. And even in that top 1%, they get more over time. They just get less of the more.
So now we've got a socialist in New York City running this city here. The image of capitalism keeps going down. It's at 54%, positive image of socialism at 39%. It's not just a New York City issue. But I do feel like the folks who voted for Mamdani in New York, they weren't poor. You know, a lot of people say it's for people who want free stuff. The people who are poorest in New York voted for Cuomo. It was the educated elite. And this is where I think we have a major problem, Lili. With the educated elite, it feels like they're saying, hey, we want socialism for us.
It's very interesting. I don't know if it's romanticizing of socialism or just lack of trust in capitalism for the young people. I think, you know, when 1 in 5 of Gen Zs are still living with their parents and affordability of the must-haves like housing and, you know, rent and the big ticket items continue to outpace their ability to earn wages, something is off. And I think this is not just a right or left or a New York or not. It's just getting back to the fundamentals. Some of what Mike was saying, like, how do we incentivize productivity? But these Gen Zs are really comfortable at home complaining about an inequality with a $1,000 phone and $300 shoes. So it's very interesting. For me as an immigrant who comes from countries with a lot of bigger issues, it is unfortunate that we are romanticizing something that hasn't worked for decades.
Ironically, we just had 2 South American countries that have been socialist for a long time vote overwhelmingly against it. They're going in the opposite direction. But this is what I want to ask you about. Steven Pinker posted something interesting about the trat life, right? And you know, what middle class used to be. You know, there was no AC, the dryer, the dishwasher, the kids shared a bedroom, there was a black and white TV. The comparisons that we're making, Mike, it's particularly the millennials that Lili's talking about, are we over-romanticizing how great it used to be back in the day?
I think both parties tend to be over-romanticizing this. I think the response of Steven Pinker and others who have done very, very well in our society is to point out that, oh, look at all the luxuries we have, we should be thankful for them. And they're 100% correct. We should be thankful for those luxuries and we should reward the individuals who create them. Capitalism, just very quickly to hit on this, has nothing to do with how the results are distributed. Capitalism is a mechanism in which we recognize that price carries information and we want to maximize that information that is being conveyed to create economic activity. I don't need to come up with a solution to my house being too warm. I just have to pay the person who does. That's what capitalism is all about. What we're talking about here is the distribution of the output from capitalism. That is what I think the younger people are looking at and saying, hey, you know what, this system as it's being presented to me doesn't work. A large portion of that is just not knowing what it is.
Do you see any room for I've said for a long time that, like any system, capitalism needs to be retooled from time to time, just like a truck or a plane that you do maintenance on. That, you know, the idea that we just hit capitalism, it's on auto. First of all, we don't have pure capitalism. We've got crony capitalism. We got this kind of capitalism. Like I said, the educated elite controls so much in our country. Just yesterday, we had a Supreme Court justice saying the president shouldn't have any power over the experts, right? So the educated elite. So it really isn't it hasn't been for a long time a pure form of capitalism anyway. So Lili, I'll ask you, do you think, or should we at least say maybe there are ways to tweak it to make it better?
Absolutely. I mean, look at how the world is moving so fast. AI is changing everything. Long gone are the days when knowledge only belonged to a few people. You can just go and prompt it the right way. And with fintechs that are now, you know, more than 60% of Gen Zs all have some sort of an account, there is no excuse anymore to have access to that path to ownership, to wealth, to growth. I think we need to retool, re-equip, and change even how we're teaching our young people in their schools what capitalism is and how they have a shot at it. We are in the era where billionaires are being made in basements because of AI. There is really no excuse but to keep pointing fingers going like this. Use your thumbs, there's plenty of tools, and yes, we the grown-ups need to show up for this new generation and show them that is possible. I've done it. I came here with nothing, Charles, you know that.
Okay,
Yep.
pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
Thank you.